I was 15 years old when everything changed. It was a normal Saturday morning, the kind that felt like every other weekend. I helped my mom at our small bakery on the corner of Elm Street. The scent of fresh bread and cinnamon rolls filled the air. I was behind the counter, arranging pastries, pretending to enjoy the routine. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours, and it felt safe. At exactly 8:47 a.m., the bell above the door rang. I looked up, expecting another regular. But the man who entered didn't look like anyone I'd ever seen before. He wore a dark hoodie, pulled low over his face, and his hands stayed hidden in his pockets. My chest tightened, without me understanding why. My mom stepped forward with a smile. "Good morning. What can I get you?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he slowly pulled something out of his pocket. A gun. The next few seconds felt like slow motion. My mom froze. I froze. The world itself seemed to freeze. But then something impossible happened. Everything around me stopped, literally. The man, my mother, the steam from the coffee machine, the clock on the wall, all of it suspended, as if someone had paused reality, and I was the only one still moving. At first, I thought I had gone crazy. I blinked. I waved my hands in front of my mom's frozen face. Nothing. Her eyes were wide with fear, her mouth slightly open, stuck mid-breath. Even the particles of dust in the sunlight weren't moving. It was like walking through a photograph. I turned toward the man with the gun. He was motionless, frozen mid-step. The gun was half raised. His eyes were filled with something between rage and fear, but they didn't blink. They didn't move. I backed away slowly. My heartbeat was the only sound I could hear. It echoed in my ears like a drum in an empty canyon. I tried to speak, to shout, but my voice didn't feel real in that silence. It was like the world had lost its sound, except for me. That's when I felt it. A presence. It wasn't a sound or a figure at first, just a shift in the air, like a warm wind that had no source. Then I turned, and he was there. A man stood in the center of the bakery, dressed in white, glowing faintly, as if light came from within him. His eyes were calm, knowing. And though his lips never moved, I heard his voice inside my mind. "You are safe," he said gently. "But you must see." I stared at him, unable to speak. He raised his hand, and the room began to dim around me, like twilight falling inside the bakery. Only he and I remained in the light. "What's happening?" I finally asked. He looked at me with compassion. "Time has paused, but not for you. You are ready." I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Not because I was paralyzed, but because something deeper held me still, like I wasn't fully in my body anymore. I looked down and saw myself standing there, but it didn't feel like me. I felt lighter, as if I were floating slightly above the floor, unbound by weight or breath. The man in white walked slowly around the frozen scene, not touching anything, only observing. I followed him. "Am I dreaming?" I asked. He turned his gaze to me. "No, this is not a dream. Your soul is awake." The words felt strange and sacred. Soul? Awake? He pointed toward the man with the gun. "Come, see what he carries." I stepped closer, uneasy, and looked into the gunman's face. It was like staring at a mask of pain. His expression was frozen in anger, but beneath it, I saw something else, something shattered. With a gentle motion, the glowing man extended his hand towards the stranger's chest. A soft light emerged, and suddenly I could feel something pouring from the man. Grief. So much grief, I almost collapsed. Memories that weren't mine flashed before my eyes. A boy crying alone in a bedroom. A mother screaming. A door slammed. Hunger. Cold nights. Fists. Silence. It was overwhelming. I stumbled back, gasping for breath I didn't need in that form. "He's hurting," I whispered. The man beside me nodded. "Yes, long before today." I had never felt anything like it. The pain radiating from that man wasn't just emotional. It had a shape, a weight, a life of its own. It moved through him like smoke trapped in glass. I could see it now, because I wasn't looking with my eyes. I was seeing with something deeper. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. The glowing man looked toward the gun again. "Because judgment is easy when you only see the surface, but the soul has layers." I walked around the gunman slowly, watching his frozen face. I had been terrified of him minutes ago, but now all I could feel was sorrow. He was only a few years older than me, maybe 20, but his life had been stretched thin by things no child should endure. He wasn't just here to steal. He was desperate, starving for something he'd never received. Love, maybe, or mercy. The glowing man motioned toward the bakery window. It shimmered and then turned into a kind of screen, showing scenes from the gunman's life. A hospital room, a funeral, a small boy sleeping on a floor, a teenage boy working night shifts and skipping meals to feed a younger sibling. "People become what the world teaches them to be," the man said softly. "But no one is beyond redemption." I looked back at the stranger, and for the first time, I didn't see a criminal. I saw a soul trying not to drown. I stood in silence, watching the images fade. The bakery window returned to normal, but everything still stood frozen. My mother, the clock, the gunman, time itself. I turned back to the man in white, my thoughts heavy. "If he's hurting," I said. "Why is he doing this?" The man answered with no anger in his voice. "Because pain, left untreated, often turns into fear, and fear turns into desperation." He walked toward me, his presence calming the storm inside my chest. "But there is something even more powerful than fear." "What's that?" I asked. "Understanding." The word echoed in my mind. I didn't know what to do with it. I was just a kid, standing in a suspended moment, being shown the inner world of someone I'd seen only as a threat. "What can I do?" I whispered. "I can't stop him. I'm just me." He placed a hand on my shoulder. I felt warmth, not physical, but something deeper, like love without words. You can choose how to see him. That choice is the beginning. I looked at the frozen man again. Not as an enemy, not even as a stranger, but as someone broken, like all of us are in some way. Then the man in white looked upward, as if listening to something far above us. "It's time," he said. I knew what he meant, even before he said the next words. "You must go back now." The moment he said it, I felt something pulling me, gently but firmly. A tug behind my chest, like a thread winding back toward its source. I looked around one last time. My mother was still frozen in fear, her hand half raised toward the register. The gunman still held his weapon in the air, caught between action and regret. "I'm scared," I admitted. The man in white gave a small, kind smile. "That's why this matters." His hand brushed my forehead, and in an instant, the light around him faded. The bakery returned to full color. Sound rushed back like a wave crashing into shore. The coffee machine hissed. The clock ticked. My mom gasped, and the man with the gun moved again. But something had changed. His hands trembled. He looked at me, straight at me, and for a split second, I saw confusion in his eyes, like he had just woken from a dream. I didn't know what to do. My body felt heavy again. My legs shook. But I took one step forward and said the only thing that came to mind. "You don't have to do this." He blinked, surprised, caught off guard. My mom turned to me, shocked. "Stay back!" she cried. But the man didn't raise the gun higher. He just stood there, breathing hard. Lost. I kept my eyes on his, not with hate, not with fear, just with understanding. For a few long seconds, no one moved. My words still echoed in the air. "You don't have to do this." The man's hand shook harder. He glanced at the door, then at my mom, then back at me. His eyes darted like a trapped animal. But there was something else now, a flicker of uncertainty, maybe even shame. "I don't want to hurt anybody," he said, barely above a whisper. No one else in the bakery dared speak. My mom was frozen again, this time by choice, but I stepped closer. "Then don't," I said softly. "It's not too late." His breathing turned ragged. For a moment, I saw the broken boy again, the one I'd seen in the glowing man's vision. A kid who never got a second chance. Maybe he didn't even know what peace felt like. Tears welled in his eyes, and he lowered the gun. It hit the floor with a thud. My mom let out a sob of relief, rushing toward me, pulling me behind her. But I wasn't afraid anymore. The man collapsed, onto his knees, hands raised in surrender, trembling as if the weight of the world had finally crushed him. I didn't see a criminal. I saw a soul who had just chosen the harder path, the one that leads back to the light. The police arrived minutes later. A customer outside had seen the commotion and called them. They came in fast, shouting commands, but the man didn't resist. He was still on his knees, crying. Not from fear, from release. He looked at me last time before they took him away. Not with anger, not with hatred, just quiet, and something close to gratitude. My mom held me tightly. I think she was shaking more than I was. She kept asking if I was okay, but I couldn't explain what had just happened. Not then. Days passed. Life returned to normal, or something close to it. But I wasn't the same. I still saw the man in white sometimes, in dreams, or in moments of silence when I was alone. I still remembered what he said. "You can choose how to see him. That choice is the beginning." That day, I learned that time didn't freeze just to protect me. It froze to teach me something. That every soul carries a story. That pain doesn't excuse harm, but it explains it. And that compassion can change the outcome, even when the odds are stacked against it. I was 15 when it happened, and I still don't know why I was chosen. But I know this. The moment I chose understanding over fear, time moved again.